Why breakfast tacos are always better in the Rio Grande Valley. In South Texas, barbacoa is not just food, it's a way of life. Let me show you why every Sunday I looked forward to this family tradition. Back home we have what are called breakfast tacos. They're not burritos, and this is something that is the staple in the Rio Grande Valley. We also have these gas stations, they're called Stripes, and they have what's called Laredo Taco Company inside of each of them, and they make what's probably in my opinion, the best breakfast tacos any time of day. Usually breakfast is when you can get the best ones though. Even Anthony Bourdain stopped by and tried it out. He said it was amazing, authentic, and this is just something that is so ingrained in me from back home, and you can't really find this anywhere. These are all the components that you need for the perfect breakfast taco. Starting off with the barbacoa. Usually barbacoa is cooked underground, and it's usually a cow's head, cow's cheek, and they call it cacheta. And back home there's actually a place that has a James Beard Award, and they're the only ones that cook it in the ground in the entire country, just because they got grandfathered in with the health code and stuff like that. You can't really find a cow's head at the grocery store, but what else can you find for the barbacoa? Okay, I'm in the meat section just to show you what a solid cut would be for barbacoa. Typically, you cannot find a cow's head in a regular grocery store. So what type of cuts would you use in substitution of the cow's head? Something like oxtails or short rib would have enough marbling and fat and even collagen to get us by. Could add that in with some chuck, and there you go, that's a solid combo for the barbacoa. So as you can see, you can use a combo of oxtails or short ribs with some beef chuck, and that's a really good combo to get a nice richness and fattiness from both meats. Sear them off really well and then put them into a pot, and then you can sear off the onions with garlic, toss that into the pot with all of the spices that I've used that you can see here. I will put it all down below, but then added some beef stock. You can also do water if you don't have beef stock, and cook it off until fork tender. I just use a pressure cooker because it's so much easier, but this is the result you get either way. On to the flour tortillas. Now this right here, oh my gosh. One of my favorite things was always just to have this with butter and salt. That was the snack that my grandma would give me. Butter and salt with a flour tortilla. The flour tortilla, super simple. For breakfast, flour tortillas are the main staple in the Rio Grande Valley. And you can find a flour tortilla at a Mexican diner, which is known as a cafe. You can find it at the gas station. You could find it even at the stores, the grocery stores, already warm in an ice chest ready to go. This is something that is known. And this is a very foolproof recipe for a flour tortilla. This one I have tried time and time again, and it's never failed me. This one's always been super soft. It's always inflated very well, and it's just a time and time again foolproof flour tortilla recipe for me. And in the mixer by weight, I add in some hot H2O, then I season the water with my salt, then toss in the flour. But for my fat, I like to use bacon fat. If you want a really good way to cook off your bacon, by the way, this is how we would do it at work. Sheet tray, lay it all nicely on a parchment sheet of paper. My grandma wouldn't do it like this. She would cook it on a pan on the stove, and that's the move. But for me, on a sheet tray in the oven. Bacon fat is a really good addition. Save the bacon for later, by the way. I'm gonna show you a really good taco with it. You can use lard, you can use vegetable shortening, you can even use some olive oil. I've done that in the past, or some clarified butter. Just use a good type of fat. I then divide it into equal size portions. But if you want to eyeball it, you could totally do that as well. I just like to use weight. If it doesn't rest, the dough is not going to set quite well. When you roll it out, it's going to shrink back into itself. It needs to relax. Okay, I'm gonna show you the simple way to roll out a flour tortilla, and this is the way that you'll even see them do it at the Laredo Taco Company, that gas station that Anthony Bourdain stopped by at. I've got a bowl of flour here. Give it a little dippy dip in the flour, and then I can take that ball, give it a little smush down, roll it out, and then turn it, roll it out, turn it. Keep repeating that process. It's just a roll and turn method, and this is what's gonna allow us to get, a nice uniform shape. There's a nice, somewhat round flour tortilla. Then from here, can take this to our comal. That's at about 360 degrees Fahrenheit, and drop that on there. Let it be. I'll have a little paper towel handy with some oil, just for wiping down my my pan every now and then. Just let it be here. Don't move it around. Don't mess with it. Just let it do its thing and it'll bubble up. Once it does that, that's when we're good to give it a little flippy flip. Using your real spatula, your hands, give it a flippy flip. Let the other side just cook off. It should bubble up. Once your tortillas are fully cooked off, get yourself a vessel, toss it in there, make sure that there's a towel of some sort. Paper towel is what I like to use in mine, and that will keep them nice and warm. Keep them in a warm space just so they don't dry out and get all hard. But then what about this little pot right here? The refried beans. If you really want to do up these refried beans, I did a video on frijoles charros. You could take those frijoles charros and the leftovers, do some refried beans with those. And it is magnificent. It's perfect. If not, just some good old pinto beans, refry them, give them a little blitz, and perfect little side. But then we've got this breakfast salsa. 3-ingredient breakfast salsa. This one is very close to home for me. I know, I get that a lot. My childhood, I get it. I say it a lot, but look, I did grow up on this. I'm not lying, seriously. So it's just 3 ingredients for me because I like to keep it very simple and pure. And that is the Roma tomato. It could be pretty much any tomato, but typically back down in South, we do Roma tomato and then garlic, jalapeno, or serrano if you want it a little bit spicier. I'm just gonna do jalapeno, so it's a little more mild. Why am I calling this a breakfast salsa? Well, I'm not just calling it that. That's what we call it back down home. It's just because they serve it with migas, which is breakfast, huevos divorciados, breakfast tacos. It's just something that's like really simple. It's not too much going on, hence just 3 ingredients for me. And you can just boil this or just pop it in the oven and roast it up really hard for a nice smoky flavor. And that's what I'm doing here. Now this stuff I really want to be charred. I want some good color on this. This is gonna add some smokiness to it. But if you so wanted to, you could just boil the stuff and bring it all together. I just think this adds some more depth and flavor to it. Breakfast salsa is just one of those things that's simple and it's unfucked with. Like really, this is such a great staple salsa. If you're in a pinch and you don't have that much stuff, just 3 ingredients, really, that's all there is to it. I like to blend it not too much, just so it's kind of chunky. If you even wanted to, you could use a molcajete, and then you'd have an even chunkier salsa. And if you wanted to go super Rio Grande Valley, you could do what my Aunt Jackie does and all the other Mexican jefes do, is add in some bouillon. A little Nor bouillon cube will take you a very long way. It adds an extra tang, it adds some more spice, it adds some more flavor, really. It's chicken stock, basically. If you wanted to, you could even just use this for chips and salsa. This is a really like basic standard salsa that they would serve you in a Valley Mexican restaurant. Pretty spicy if you add serrano like I just did. As you can see, breakfast salsa, a very simple thing to add to the breakfast taco. That would all make the perfect breakfast taco. But back home, we would do cheddar cheese or American cheese, followed by bacon, which equals what they call a Q taco, which I could tell you about, and then of course some egg. Okay, let's go ahead and run through this whole thing. Starts off with the flour tortilla. Flour tortilla then gets a good helping of the refried beans right on there, nice and warm. Then some of our nice barbacoa with oxtail. Then we're gonna do some scrambled eggs. For my scramble, I don't like to do a very soft scramble, mainly because in a taco, I don't like a soft scramble. I just don't really care for that texture, and it's not really close to home for me. So I do somewhat of a harder scramble for this. I'll usually do 2 eggs, and here's what I do. I will leave out one of the yolks, cook it through. So I scramble it off, add in some salt. Then right at the end, I'll add in that egg yolk, just so it remains somewhat moist. And this is somewhat of a firmer scramble for me. That will go right on there. Then some of our breakfast salsa. Then it just gets folded over. It's not really a burrito, it's a taco. Then they'll just roll it up. There's a barbacoa breakfast taco, Rio Grande Valley style. This is the money right here. Now let me show you a Q taco real quick. Gets the same refried beans, 1 strip of bacon, and then it would get either American cheese or some cheddar, the firm scrambled egg. Throw on some breakfast salsa, fold that John over, and this right here was our Q taco. The reason why this was called the Q taco is because back home we had a radio station called Q94.5, the rock station, Brownsville's finest rock music. But yeah, they came up with their own version of the taco. The Q taco is what they called it. And ever since then, that's what it's been called. So this is sort of like a secret item. If you happen to go to a Stripes gas station in the Valley or in northern Texas, they have them in El Paso as well. Just ask for a Q taco. They'll know what that means and they'll know what to make. I don't know why I don't make these more often. What I want you to do is I want you to comment what egg dish you want to see for Eggmas, since Eggmas is coming back for this December.